So many of you probably know chatbots, but I'm also sure that probably some of you don't. So maybe in a nutshell, what is a chatbot? A chatbot is actually a combination between a chat and a robot. So as you can see, it works like a sort of Facebook Messenger, but instead of talking to another person, you're actually talking to an automated robot. So within the Eulike project, we are doing a lot of stuff on chatbots. So Roeselaar is doing a pilot, but also gemeente Groningen, and also the city of Rotterdam, and also Aalborg are looking at how can we use chatbots in our service delivery and our service organization. So our question in Eulike is, okay, we have chatbots, but what is the added value for a local organization, or what is the added value of the chatbot itself? So we are now searching with pilots, how can we solve this question, and what's in it for us and what's in it for the civilians. So today I'm just going to talk about the pilot in Roeselaar, but as I said before, there were a lot of pilots. If you want to know more, you can just contact the partners and have some more information about them too. So our chatbot is publicly based on a website. So it's not live yet, but we're working on it to get it live during the summer. So our chatbot is not in the back end, but in the front end of the service delivery, and it answers questions from citizens. So in Roeselaar we have called it Bertje, because Bertje is like a famous abbreviation of Albrecht Rodenbach in Roeselaar. It's a famous brewer, and everybody in Roeselaar loves to drink Rodenbach beer. So so what does Bertje do? So he's the digital assistant of me, and he answers general questions from citizens. So they can ask about the opening hours, where is the city hall located, where can we swim, what are the opening hours of the swimming pool, where can we go for a passport, what do we need to bring, and so on. But it's also a wayfinding on the website. So we put Bertje on the website, and like on the website you have the search button, but Bertje is better because when you search in Bertje, it gives you the right answer. You don't have to search between all the search results, you just get the answer you want. It also answers case-specific questions like detailed questions about, for example, the library. Can we strengthen our book delivery, or can we reduce the time, or what's the price of something? So it delivers that too. And it's an extra function on the general website, an extra search location. So what is Bertje? We have like a customizable smart city chatbot. So we use the program of Microsoft, but we can customize it like we want to. So if other partners or other organizations want to use this kind of chatbot, you can make it your own and see like, okay, organization is red or blue, then you choose the colors. Organization wants to call it Chatbot or Norbert, it can also be another name, so and so on. So it can be on layout, you can choose your own colors, your own style. It can also be on chat flow, so if you want to welcome or you want to introduce yourself. It's also on personality, you can have personal questions. So for example, what does the name Bertje mean, or where does it come from? And it also can be put on several channels. We have chosen the website, but it can also be like on Facebook or something else. So layout, Bertje looks like that. That's our logo, and that's Bertje, the famous brewery beer delivery guy. So, and that's like our screenshot from when you open Bertje. You see like, okay, in the front and the back, above, you see like, okay, what can he do? Because we should show people what he can do and what he can't do to manage the expectations. So we deliberately put it there to say like, okay, you can ask this to Bertje, but this you can't ask. For example, case-specific questions on your personal finds. That will Bertje no do, because he don't know you, so he can't really detailed information about you. And then we have a second screen, and there it's in Dutch, but it says, hello, my name is Bertje, how can I help you? And we tried to put 3 things on so that people can know, and we can send them into a different direction. So they can ask something, they can ask something like a passport, or they can notify something. For example, if you have a complaint, you just put on the first button and then you come in the complaint section. The channels, so we put them on the website, it will look like that. And so personality, We started it with like, okay, you have to be able to distinguish Bertje from the personal questions and from the city-related questions. Because in research, it has shown that people try to abuse chatbots because they want to ask like a lot of silly information like, oh, do you have a wife, or where do you live? And then we answer like, okay, I don't live anywhere because I'm online, but if I would live somewhere, it would be in Roeselare. So you have to find a good answer for a silly question. And the chat flow is also important for giving feedback to your audience and getting feedback from your audience. So when you have like the chatbot and you have finished your conversation, then the chatbot automatically asks you, okay, would you have called us for this kind of question? So we know that if there is impact on a call center or not, but it also asks like, are you satisfied with the answer you got? So that we get some immediate feedback of the users of the chatbot itself. But maybe you're wondering, okay, but it's a robot, how does it work? How does it feel like? So it's smart by using artificial intelligence. It uses language analysis. There is a built-in search engine, and we have learning capabilities. I will explain to you just in a minute. So language analysis. It's called natural language processing, but what does it mean? For example, if somebody asks, is the city hall open now? Then the chatbot will look at, okay, what's the intention? So is something open? Then the chatbot will see like, okay, what are the different details, relevant details, because is something open? That's a really big question, so he has to narrow it down to the city hall. And then he explains like, okay, city hall and open, what answer should I give during our languages? Mm-hmm. So the built-in search engine, we have like a knowledge database where all the questions are built in. We have about 600 questions now who are standard in the chatbot, and we can modify or add it or constantly go through it to really manage that portal. And it has learning capabilities because during the test phase, when you, for example, ask something to the chatbot and then the chatbot gives you an answer, people in the testing phase could answer it's correct or it's not correct. If it was not correct, the chatbot gives two different answers. If you see, like, for example, answer 1 was correct, then the chatbot will remember that, and if you ask the question again, then he will give you automatically answer 1. So evaluation, it's very important when you launch such things that you really test it, because it can go wrong. It's a good thing, but it can go wrong if you don't test it properly. So we have done it multiple times internally, and now we're finished and we're going to go externally to test. Maybe if you guys want to like, okay, chatbot looks fine, I want to do it too, maybe some best practices. You have to really manage expectations, because people can expect a lot of the robots, but you really have to manage them and, okay, what can a robot do and what can it not do? So we really did like, okay, if the robot really doesn't know the answer, we just say, I don't know the answer because I'm still in a learning phase. So people know that, okay, there's working on it, and we will deliver you an answer in a further stage. For example, if there is no answer at all, for example, if you asked thing 3 times and you can't answer any of the questions, then you're connected to our online notification form where you can be in contact with a staff of the Roeselare municipality. And so the feedback is anchored in the chatbot, so we have the self-learning testing phase. So maybe you know, like, okay, we have a lot of pilots in the Eulike project, but there are also some transnational outcomes, so some similarities that we saw. The first one is the 24/7 availability. So when you have a chatbot and you want to deliver information to someone, you don't have to wait in a queue, you just can open the chatbot and ask your question and you get an instant answer. It increases quality of service because people just get the right answer on the right space, they don't have to search for it anymore, and there are no queues. It makes information more easily available because people can just go to the web page, the front page, click on it, you have your answer there. And it guides citizens to the right service on and offline because it goes with linkages to the right pages, so people can just click through and go to the right information if needed. Some other advantages. So by adding an extra channel, it relieves the complex issues for the case managers, and it answers like the simple questions. So people in the city can work more on the complex things and have less issues with the non-complex things. It's also a single point of contact because we have tried to provide an answer to all the FAQs for the simple services into the chatbot, so everyone can ask like every single question of the municipality services over there. And it also shows deficits on the website, because if you have a lot of linkages, then you know like, okay, our website is not up to date, because if we link through it, then you see like, okay, this is wrong, and then you can update it with your audience. So no queues, like I said before, and it strengthens the digital DNA of your citizen by using this kind of form. Other advantages are, like I said, it's multi-channel and customized, and it's self-learning. Maybe some risks. The bot is not endless in knowledge, so you really have to update it again and again. The expectations of the public can be too high, so you really have to manage them. There is no engagement in your organization to feed bot. That's a really crucial thing that you need to have. And outdated information is a really big thing also. So if it's not used in a proper manner by your target audience, then probably your chatbot will fail. So these things you have really taken into account when you launch such things. And some transactional do's and don'ts at last. Managing expectations, safety responses, and small talk. Really good. Not so good. Try to impersonate humans. Thank you.
So it was my pleasure to bring you the innovation showcase this morning, and the question is, did you dig it?
Yes, we did.
Is the right answer. So really now we could say you've dug it, really, couldn't we? But anyway, so if you did, you'll have seen one of two projects that are actually part funded by the Eulike project. So my brief is to focus on those two projects, but I can't but help just give you a little flavour of some other smart innovation in Suffolk as well. So here we go then. So,
The button for next.
that one there. Look at that, see, me and innovation, we go hand in glove, you see, hand in glove. So yes, in the atrium you saw earlier on the cycle sensor trial. The bicycle kind of gave it away a little bit there. And so we're working with BT, so with our Eulike partners. We were at Dashboard Park yesterday for part of our steering group meeting. So this is a project which is kicking off next month, and it involves members of our staff having a cycle sensor, and that sensor has many features, as you can see on the screen there. So it's of interest for various reasons. So first of all, it promotes cycle safety. So we're trying to encourage more of our staff to actually commute on bicycles to work, but lots of other features as well. It will help our planning teams to inform their planning decisions, and we're also exploring how the actual sensor can detect bumps in the road surface, and we can potentially use that to plot things like potholes and things like that. So some really interesting potential there. So we're really quite excited about that particular project, and that's all using, of course, a cloud-based system. And it also comes with an app as well, so if your cycle happens to be tampered with, you can get an alert on your smartphone. So that's the Cycle Sense project. And there's a quick snapshot. It's a little bit blurry. That's been trialled previously in Manchester in the City Verve project. That's a little flavour of what you can see on the dashboard. So the coloured areas indicate where the cyclists are going to and from their place of work and home, and an idea of the number of people who are actually using that particular cycle route. Okay, so our second project that's being part funded then by Eulike is robotic process automation. Now, there are various views on that name. I think we prefer the phrase process automation. It's or automation. It's slightly less scary. If you put the word robot at the front, it does conjure up images like that. That's me normally on the first day back from holiday, actually. But we have been working very closely actually with colleagues from Colchester, and they have a very different take on that. And their take really is not so much about the robots, focus more on the fact that time matters. Okay, so time matters. What do I mean by time matters? Well, at Colchester, as I said, they've been working with process automation for a while now. using it in their hospital. And it's all about using a system which allows you to actually automate some of the simple processes that normally you and I would do. Okay, and that can lead to concerns about jobs and redundancies and what have you. But it's more about actually saving time and using that time actually more creatively and on more interesting things. So we have an example here. This is Chris, one of the staff members at Colchester Hospital, and like many members of staff at Colchester and also in Ipswich Hospital, they have thoroughly embraced the idea of automating simple admin processes, because it means they're not sat there doing the boring jobs that perhaps we all have to do from time to time, and they can instead use the time that they've saved on more complex or more creative pieces of work. So it's about making better use of the time that we have, and that also of course leads to improved services. So in the example on the screen you can see there, it's led to a much more improved patient system for Colchester Hospital, and that of course really affects the treatment that people are getting and a more speedier service generally. Okay, so what has the Suffolk approach been then to trying to embrace process automation? So as I say, we've worked with Colchester, and a great believer in actually learning from others and not reinventing the wheel. So we've learned from Colchester, and that's a great example of the public sector working together. So we held a workshop that was led by Darren, and we used that form there to help to capture some of the manual processes that we already use. And as a result of that exercise, in a 40-minute period, we actually teased out of the staff who were present no less than 137 manual processes that we thought could possibly benefit from process automation. I think what was even more exciting about that, though, was the fact that we had staff from all levels, so from admin staff through to senior staff, and all of them really were enthused by the opportunities that process automation can bring. So there's a tremendous excitement in the room. And our next step then is to run a 90-day proof of concept, which is actually, it's being built now, and it will actually start in April. And we're going to see how we get on and put it to the test, as it were. We believe the actual automation itself will work fine. It's really just taking staff on a journey and also looking at what steps are involved to really embrace automation. So after we've had that, we will then quickly review how that's gone, and if it has been successful and the business case is there, and I'm fairly confident it will be, we will then look to go through a procurement process to actually embed that across all of our services. So, what else are we looking to do? Well, there's a quick snapshot of many other innovative topics we're looking at. Only last week we got some money from the New Anglia Local Enterprise Partnership to help roll out some LPWAN sensor gateways, and before that 4.4 million for smart highways. So you get a flavour there of what's happening in Suffolk. So we really are innovating, and we really do dig it. And we're always up for a cup of coffee, of course. So as Chris says, you know, do catch me afterwards for a conversation. If not, do give me a call, and we'll have that chat. Thank you very much. Under 10 minutes.
Yeah, Kevin went under 10 minutes, never seen before. Fabulous. Fabulous.
My topic for today, and what I wonder is, does especially digital participation lead to better services? And I guess that many of you think yes, of course, but if there are any politicians here, they may think no, I hope not. So I will just give you two examples from our city, which is a small city in the northern part of Germany. Our first example is a value mapping tool, which is a which is based on a geographic information system. So that's the technology behind it, and we developed it together with the University of Vechta. So why do we need that? I think I have to tell you a little bit about our city in order to make you understand this. So Vechta is a small city with about 35,000 inhabitants in a rural area. And it used to be dominated by single family houses with big gardens and really broad streets, and there was so much space to be developed. But due to demographic changes and also due to really a good economic situation in our region, we need space, and the need for space is increasing constantly. And why is this important for us? Because as you know, local authorities plan how land is used. So for instance, on housing or industrial areas or for nature conservation. And of course, there are many conflicting interests on this topic. So our city planning department needs to plan how the land is used, but the big problem that we have is that space is a really scarce resource, because Vechta is surrounded by agriculture and the farmers don't really want to sell their space to the city. So we nearly got no sites, but the people are expecting us to build houses, to protect the nature, and to get some new jobs. So that's not easy. What happens in the city planning now, which is quite a traditional, maybe a bit conservative approach, is that citizens are mostly not involved in this planning. So what happens is that we plan, for instance, in industrial areas, and there are conflicting interests from the different interest groups occur very late in the process to us, which makes the planning really less efficient, more expensive, and really conflicting. So the idea of the university and us was to introduce a digital tool where people can value sites and Vechta at a very early stage in the planning process. So we asked them for their wishes. What do you want us? How do you want a certain area to be developed? So that's the idea behind this. And our goal is, of course, a more efficient city planning and an increase of trust from the citizens, and also less costs. I will just go to the next slide. Here you can see how the website looks like. So on the left you have a map, and the red part of it, that's a park in this case, you can rate. And you also got pictures of the site, and on the right you see some questions out of our questionnaire, and we asked we've got about 20 questions for now, because it's also a research project, but maybe we will decrease the amount of questions later. So there we asked people also simple questions like, what do you want this area to be? I need to switch back shortly. So the website is online since winter, I think end of November, from our last meeting onwards, and people can participate, but of course we want more participants, and also we want to know what people think of this tour. So I honestly tell you what happened. We have designed a really nice workshop because we've got many interest groups who complain about our planning. So we invited them and wanted them to take part and also tell us, what do you think of this tool, and do you find it useful, or what kind of changes would you like? And what happened is that we've got less than 10 registrations. So participation is not always what people want or what they are motivated to. That's also an experience I wanted to share, and the next step is the analysis of the first results, and maybe we go for another try for such a workshop. That's this project. And then we've got another one. So Vechta is known as the city of horses, so equestrian sport is really big, breeding, and especially international auctions. So if you want to buy a wonderful but probably expensive horse, just come to us. So as we are known as City of Horses, we developed a right-of-way network for equestrians, but that's quite old, so about 20 years old, and we don't know the original selection criteria because the people don't work for the municipality anymore. And we assume that the condition and kind of use changed as well, and the network is relatively big for our city size, about 30 kilometers. So we could just go there and check the condition and everything, but we assume that the condition changes throughout the year, and also we are no equestrians so we look there from another perspective. So the challenge is the identification of the condition, the usage rate, and also the kind of use throughout a longer time period. Because we had one colleague who is an equestrian, and she was there with her horse, and she already told us that the condition is quite bad, and on some ways trucks and cars are driving, and we even build new streets and the horses have to cross, so that's not what we expect and want for the equestrians as a good right-of-way network. So now the IoT hackathon, which took place in Trent, comes into play. So we defined a challenge for the participants of the hackathon, and I don't know all results for now, but I think they developed, or the idea was to develop kind of a geophone. I don't know what it is, but that's how I called it. And the idea is to place sensors along the right-of-way network that sends information like who is using the right-of-way right now. Is it a horse? Is it a car? Or even a truck? And also the usage rate, and why do we need such a technology? That's mainly because of the time part, because we only don't want the information not only for summer, because it's very different, can be very different in winter and summer. So and another question that we had, which I find really interesting, is also, are there ways that are currently being used by equestrians that we don't know of, because we could also develop these ways further. So that's our right-of-way challenge, and I'm looking forward to the results from the hackathon, and we will also talk with colleagues and equestrians and to move on. So I can't answer my question for sure, but I have some assumptions or learnings. So I think that we need to involve citizens' interest and also expert groups in order to improve our services. I can't prove it, but I think most of the times they have really important knowledge for us. My second assumption is that digital tools can help us, but need to be completed with real encounters, because probably, for instance, the value mapping site is used by people, but probably few people want to use it, but they don't do it because they see certain obstacles or something. And also someone called me concerning an area in his part of the town, and he said, well, why don't you ask me, my daughter wants to build a house, and that's not possible in that area anyway. So that's this kind of opinions we would like to know, because it's important for us. And I do know what I want to add, that it's for now probably more research project, but such a site could be used for any purposes also further in a planning process. You could use maps, and probably you already do, to rate playgrounds, or ask people how to design a certain open space or something. Well, and my third learning is that it's not always the case that people participate. So I think that also depends on the culture per city. I think in our city people are not used to it. So we are trying an experiment with some events, but yeah, the feedback is quite low for now, and probably what I think this also has to do with trust, because they, yeah, to be honest, they are not used to be involved, and this is probably in many cases like this. So we need to build up trust probably before we can ask them to come to our events. That's an assumption. I don't know if I have another slide. No.
I'm conscious of a few things. You've had a lot of information, a lot of very useful and fascinating information. I'm conscious that I'm the last one. I'm aware that it's 20 to 5. I'm also aware that all my previous speakers managed to do it without notes. So I've left my notes over there. So I apologise for what may come out of my mouth over the next 10 minutes or so, because it'll be a surprise to both of us. I work, as you can see, in the external funding team at Suffolk County Council. So I'm just going to do a few minutes on the work that the team does, and then talk about some of the projects that we've worked on, that we've developed, and a few of the techniques and some of the practices that we encourage applicants to use when developing projects. So, this is our team. This is basically what we do. We're here to help bring external funding into Suffolk. Our team is comprised of people who develop projects, manage projects, worked for funders. We get external funding in Suffolk. We understand the value of it. We understand that it's not just about the money. There are a lot of transferable skills involved in developing and delivering a project. You build up partnerships, as with the Eulike project and with a load of others. Those partnerships will yield future projects. And we work with major funders like the Lottery, like Europe, like the LEP. We also work with a whole range of smaller community funds as well, and one of the things we understand is that a very small grant can make a very large difference to an organisation. One of the things that we do when we work with applicants, we encourage the applicant to take ownership of the project. Ultimately, that applicant will have to deliver that project. So we encourage them to stay involved all the way along, so they're aware of what they're developing and what they will be asked to deliver. Our role doesn't just end with the project being approved. We help people during the delivery process with the claims, with making sure that they achieve the outputs, with the evaluation of the project, where they're really sort of from cradle to grave. Again, as a sounding board, and often just as a voice of sanity or a friendly face. And there's quite a lot of listening involved. There's quite a lot of reassurance. But yeah, we just aim to help people as much as we possibly can. We're a very outward-facing team. We work with a whole range of partners, which I'll talk about in a minute, but we are based within Suffolk County Council. Everything we do comes down to that, basically. We're here to improve the lives of residents and visitors. We would hope that all of our work will contribute to those three very important priorities, and we encourage all applicants to do much the same. I've just put a few projects up there. My work primarily concentrates on the European funding, which is an interesting field to be in at the moment. So this is just, I'm not going to mention it at all. These are just a few of the projects that our team have worked on over the last sort of 6 to 8 months, really. We're the lead project in Connected Communities, which is a France Channel England project. So we've worked on Interreg projects, we've worked on ESF. We managed to lead a rural project. LEADER is coming to an end, so we're working to develop an ERDF project which will carry on the sort of rural business support that LEADER has done. That will complement a lot of the business support projects and work that we've done with New Anglia LEP via our Growth Hub, and also Be Anglia, which Suffolk County Council itself manages. which focuses on promoting the low carbon agenda. With all of those projects, we've helped with the development of it, and of course Like as well. With all of them, we've helped with the development and delivery. With quite a few of them, we've helped out with the claims management as well, particularly Big Anglia. As I say, we're a very outward-facing team. We even work with Norfolk, so we even go over the border into Suffolk. But no, we've got a whole range of regional, national and international partners with whom we work very, very closely. We sit on Interreg subcommittees. In fact, I recognise some faces from some of the North Sea conferences that we've been to. We appraise projects for 2Cs, French Channel in England, North Sea. We're plugged into a whole range of government departments, which at the moment is actually very, very useful because the situation is changing quite quickly as far as European funding is concerned. We're invited to sit on boards which will be hoping to shape what happens post-European funding. We know the Shared Prosperity Fund is coming, and we've actually been asked to sort of take part in consultations on what that fund will look like. There's a lot of stuff going around about no deal Brexit, so we've been asked to take part in just brainstorming sessions on what no deal scenarios would look like. So people do value our opinion, and people within the North Sea Commission, for example, have sort of that they appreciate the fact that we play an active part in those things. It also helps us to see things from the other side of the fence as well. If we're developing projects, if we work with funders, we know what funders are looking for or aren't looking for in an application, which is very useful information we can then pass on to applicants. These are just a few of the sort of comms-y type things that we do. We've got a Twitter feed, we've got information on the Suffolk County Council webpage. We run a whole series of events to do with project manager workshops. We're doing an event with the voluntary sector on April the 29th, focusing on Brexit. And as I say, we're doing work on the Shared Prosperity Fund as well. Nothing stays still in the public sector for very long. There are changes happening to our team. We've got a new home within localities and partnerships, slightly different team structure, but there's still work to be done. The external funding team is still here. Our work will still continue. There are still funds out there to bid for. There are still projects that need developing. We're still here, basically. In terms of the work that we do, these are just some of the things that we try to encourage applicants to think of when they're developing a bid. A lot of you that have worked on the LIFE project will know all this already, so apologies if I'm going to repeat it. But these are the things that people want to see. Demand and need is absolutely crucial, and apologies if I bang on about this, but this is something that is absolutely, it's the first thing that anybody needs to think about. If there's no demand and need, there is no project. Please do not chase the money. I say this a lot to applicants because people still, they will just come up with a project just to try and get money, and that project won't go anywhere. Jargon, we all use jargon. It's impossible not to, and that's why it's useful very often to use a team like ours, because we can look at an application and just sort of say, I don't understand that. We don't play any part in the approvals process. It's all open, it's transparent, so people can send us drafts to look at, and we can sort of say, I don't understand that, what does that mean? And it's a process that can really help strengthen an application. I didn't know I was going to do that. Right, things that make a bad bid: chasing the money, promising the earth. It's great that you can deliver the earth, but if you can't, it can make life a little bit difficult. So just please be realistic. Can you spend and deliver? And again, that's equally pertinent once you get the money as well. Leave yourself plenty of time. You'll always feel as though you're doing things right at the last minute, but it is important that you allow yourself plenty of time to make sure that your bid is as good as it can possibly be. And look around to see what else is out there. You can complement another project, you can work with another project, but if you just repeat it, then you won't get funding, and you'll be all tripping over each other, looking for the same beneficiaries, chasing the cash. So use us, use teams like ours, work with your local authorities, just to find out what else is out there that you can replicate, or rather not replicate. So, again, just to reiterate, don't just go after the money, establish the need, then look for the project, and then come to us and we can help you try and find the right fund for your project. Don't try and fit a square peg into a round hole, because there will be a square hole out there which will be more appropriate for you. An appraiser's life is not an easy one. I've appraised projects, one or two of us here have appraised projects. Very often an appraiser will only have the application form to work on. If it's not on the form, then they can't see it, or they'll read between the lines and they may find things between the lines that you didn't want them to see in the first place. So they need to be really hit right between the eyes with what your project is, what it's going to do, what it's going to achieve. I always say that any project, any fund is looking for four main things: what it is, what it's going to cost, what it's going to achieve, and why you're going to do it. Why you're going to do it. If you start with those, then you're off to a good start. Many applicants will want to give an appraiser lots of information that the appraiser might not even need or have asked for, because they've decided they want to tell you all this stuff. So in short, all you need to do is that. Just answer the question that's been asked. I always say to people, if you're developing a project, print that out, stick it above your desk, because the more you look at it, the scarier it is. And if I could find a way to make the eyes flash red, I would do. But yeah, that is absolutely key. Just answer the question that's been asked. And yeah. And then once you get your project approved, that's when the fun really begins. And that's when people get all misty-eyed about the application process, because they suddenly realise that getting the money was the easy bit, and now they've got to spend it. And it's rather like when you become a parent, and suddenly you have this thing that you love and which takes over your world, but equally it's terrifying, and you're knackered and you've got all this responsibility, and you suddenly realise that before life was easier. So these are things you need to think about. Hopefully you'll put them into your bid. But again, work with us, we can tell you how you deal with a lot of those things. And stay in touch. People want to help. Nobody benefits from the money not being spent. We all know things change. Don't struggle in silence. There are people here who can help you. The funds are there to help you. So if you're running into difficulties, then just communicate and stay in touch. And stay in touch with me as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our presenters this afternoon. Absolutely fantastic presentations. I mean, I am just going to make the obvious comment about, standing up here and presenting to a rather big room, not in your first language, is really impressive, especially Kevin. So yeah, no, I mean, I think again, really impressive and really interesting projects, and I think we learned a lot this afternoon. So thank you to our presenters. I must also mention Leslie. Just stand up, Leslie. Leslie has. So Leslie has hosted the visit. She has arranged this afternoon. She has to deal with lots of questions from me about, so what are we doing? So she's done an absolutely fantastic job in organising things and kind of like putting things together. So credit to Leslie. Thank you very much for everything that you've done. And I know from conversations I've had in the break, that it's been a really good visit, and people have enjoyed the last anchor and various parts of meals in Suffolk. So that's been fantastic. I mean, the thing that strikes me about this afternoon, I've got so many things written down that that are examples of things that really resonated. I think about I was thinking about the gamification sort of like project we were talking in the break, and about the group of people that we have that we support in Suffolk that are coming through, our young people in particular. Those people who are really familiar with things like Fortnite and really sort of like comfortable with gaming. Actually, is this a way to reach them early? Is this a way to deal with some of the problems that they get into? We see lots of coverage about mental health problems in young people. Is this a way of getting people? There's loads of stuff there for us. Really interested in the way the health and care presentation, from Angus, talked about how they try and present health and care as one organisation. We don't do that in Suffolk as well, but maybe there's an opportunity to do that. Lots of ideas around participatory budgeting. I'm looking at one particular row over there, maybe that has some interest in participatory budgeting and the way that we do that. Digital savvy grannies in Denmark, absolutely great. But things again. You must have an email address. Yeah. Something that really resonated with me. Wow. What a thing. I mean, lots of stuff around. Chatbots I found really interesting. I thought that was great. Finding answers to silly questions. So that's kind of like seems to be. We did quite a lot of that in local government in terms of taking that forward. So and the challenge of growth. So Vector, the challenge of growing a growing town. I think we see that loads in Suffolk. I think it really resonates about how do you engage people in the planning process. How do you get them to sort of like understand? Everybody sort of like says growth is good. Yeah, of course we want affordable housing. We want more houses. But actually, as long as it's nowhere near me, and how do you engage communities in planning and in land use planning? It's really, really interesting. And the whole idea of Vector being the place to buy a horse, and Newmarket is the place in Suffolk. So actually, there's some really strong connections I think that we could follow up. I think between Vector and Newmarket. So some really, really interesting things. United, I think, by the fact that using the power of the technology and internet to make people's lives better. I think that's why why we're all interested in this, and it is great. We talk quite a lot, I think, certainly in local government here, about savings and about reducing things and about managing demand. And I think today, for me, the showcase across the road and here really, gives you a sense of passion and optimism about public services and about how you can use technology and how there are so many opportunities out there for us to sort of like exploit and to learn from one another on. So I'll finish with I think Dom gave us a bit of a challenge to go out and be digital. So I'd encourage people to do that and to build on what you've heard just across the road and here this afternoon. So thank you all for coming and participating, and I wish you a safe journey to various parts of Europe. So all the best. Thank you.